Hello and welcome to another stream from League of Virtual F1. This time we are at Croft Circuit, North Yorkshire in the United Kingdom for round 4 of the World Touring Car Championship. Now, this has been quite the spectacle of the last few rounds indeed. Last time out at a very unknown track in Sweden, Nutstorp, provided quite a lot of drama. Unfortunately, Carlos Fenner was not about at the time. However, he was a long way ahead in the championship. And when I did ask whether he was at risk in the championship, everybody said, nah, he's 40 points clear. Nobody's going to get close. But no, we have a new championship leader. Moretti has gone ahead by 1 point. We will have some graphics on screen for you. There you go. So you can see that 1 point clear of Carlo Fenner is Moretti with Jose HD right behind on 88. Rodriguez, as we know, is very fast, 77 points there. Jimenez, 76. Last weekend might have a lot to do with that. He was quite dominant out there at Not Stop. Pablos on 54 and Danny on 54. Two very consistent drivers. Asiete and Vinal down there, 47 and 42 respectively. And then we'll have Rinaldo Edo on 40 at the back. Now, these drivers have been toe-to-toe for so many laps of the rounds and races that we've had so far. It's not like in single seaters where you find a gap and you go. There's battles from start to finish. There's drama left, right, and centre. And we're going to be seeing a lot of that today because Croft is one of those circuits where you just can't get away from everybody else, especially in tin tops where your pace is similar, your car's restricted, you've got a regulation set to abide by. Now, in all honesty, I was racing here last weekend, so I saw it firsthand. And I know what I'm going to be looking for at certain corners, such as Tower, a tight right hand with a very bumpy apex. Corners such as Sunny in and Sunny out, a double right hander that is a very, very difficult braking zone. And if you get it wrong, you can run wide onto the grass and that'll slow you down quite a bit. Complex and hairpin, which the cars are coming away from now. Complex is very, very slow. Slowest part of the track before hairpin. And hairpin is a really difficult hairpin to get right. You've got to sling it down long and then take a really tight corner to build speed for the exit. And as you can see on circuit, the spray behind these cars right now. Yep, that's right. We have rain. Rain in North Yorkshire. It is quite an overcast and wet day here where I am as well. I'm not too far away from the circuit, but a little bit further north from me is Croft Circuit itself. It looks to be quite a lot wetter there. So, on circuit at the moment is a practice session, and Jimenez currently has the fastest time by 0.4 of a second. Now, in motorsport, that is quite a large gap. So if Jimenez doesn't find a challenger, he could do what he did last weekend and just walk away with this race. And at this point in time, he might be in reaching of that top spot of the championship because he's not that far behind. I mean, the points haven't really spread out that much until you get to sort of the last few people of the top 10. As we've seen, Cabeza Speed is in second, and you saw Cabeza Speed last weekend having a few tussles, having a few difficulties, but definitely had the pace to do a lot more. We might see some of that this weekend. Danny 01, same for the Cheetah Racing team, working with Cabeza Speed by the looks of things, really getting to grips with this circuit as well on a very similar pace to his teammate. Then we have Josete HD. We've seen Josete HD being in the mix at the front. We probably will see a lot of that today, as well as the Fuenlabrada Racing team. I think would prefer two drivers up at the top this time around rather than just the one. And then we have Rinaldo Edo for the Sad Bombs GSR Racing team. He's a little bit further back with 1.4 seconds behind the lead group, which in all honesty, it is a mile. It is a mile at Croft. It's a very fast track, is this? And to be 1.4 seconds back, you're probably struggling with something. And with it being wet, I'm not surprised because it's slippy out there. It'll be really slippy out there. Even when it's dry, offline, it's a nightmare. and you don't have the wet line choice at a lot of the corners around here. The first turn, Clairvaux and Hawthorne after it in the chicane, for example, there is one line around there that is fast. There is one line around there that involves a cut penalty, and there is one line around there that involves going off circuit. Neither of those are good fun for the drivers. So there is one line which will be full of rubber and therefore will be very, very slippy. So they're going to have to slow down quite a lot for that corner. As we are now into the qualifying session, I believe. 15 minutes on the clock. We're going to see what these drivers could do as we're seeing the Outcasts just head onto the track right behind the Sad Bombs GSR racing team. I will find out who the drivers are in just a second. So car number 54 is Shant Ardhamwich for the Outcasts. Doing quite a good job last weekend, a lot better than the teammates did. I'm just wondering whether we're going to start to see some pace from Shant Ardhamwich in this round. Croft is a very different circuit to Nutstop. It's not quite as technical, and as you can see, there's some very long straights and some very high-speed sections indeed. As Shant Ardhamwich just goes off at Tower there, that will not make him faster. If you go too tight around the apex, it's bumpy and that slows you down and settles the car. And if you go wide, it just robs you of speed, does that. As we're seeing now, coming through Barcroft and down to Sunny Inn, Shant Ardhamwich goes very, very wide again. He wants to get back on circuit before the tyre barrier, otherwise he won't be able to get back on. And he's gone right around the back of the tyre barrier, and he's about to find out that, oh no, he's made it back on. There we go. There we go, as he just lets F1 Labrada team go ahead. So looking at the timing sectors, Jimenez appears to have the fastest sectors so far. Shant Ardhamwich is off again in complex. You can see how slippy it is. Any mistake and you're off, and it looks like Shant Ardhamwich's tyres have just completely fallen off a cliff. No pressure, no temperature, and he's going to struggle to keep that on circuit. As we're watching car 51, Adrian Jimenez starting his first attempt at getting a pole lap here. Now, Jimenez, as we know, very quick driver. He is in the F1 Labrada racing team, who are... Oh, that's a bit wide, Adrian. Very wide, and again wide on the exit because he's got gravel on the tyres. That's not going to stick very well. And then he slings it into chicane just there. But yeah, Jimenez is wanting to take the F1 Labrada racing team into the team's battle against Sad Bombs GSR Racing, which should be heating up now. I'm imagining that there's not much difference between them, and I've got a feeling that it might be the F1 Labrada team just ahead. So a purple in sector 1, that's to be expected. It's still very early into the session, as we're seeing just a little bit tight around the first part of the fast section Barcroft. Sunny Inn, eyes wide, he's off circuit, and unfortunately that might take his time away. So he's going to continue going anyway. Still purple because again there's not many other people that have set a time. And he's off again at complex. Again, it's very, very difficult because the rain coming down means that you've got no choice but to try and find grip wherever it might be. And at complex and at the first few corners and at Tower, the rubber cuts across the circuit, so you find a bit of grip and then suddenly it just disappears from you. You find yourself off circuit. So we're seeing Jimenez with that lap is still in second place. So like we say, still not slow. We're now on board with Cabeza Speed, just going around a little bit on the approach to Sunny In, Sunny Out there, so he's not going to set a quick time this lap. As he just returns to the pits there, expectedly so. And we're on board with Reynald de Edo. As I did mention, he's one of the quicker drivers for Sad Bombs GSR Racing Team. He hasn't been there every round, so he's not up there in the championship standings, but we would expect to see something from him this time around. And as he comes across the line, 2 green sectors, not purple, so we won't see pole, but it is enough to put him up into 9th place there, I believe. I'm just struggling with the graphics a bit at the moment. He's just got a little bit pixelated for me. I'm not quite sure whether we can solve that in time, but we do have a lot of times on the board at the moment. And looking at the live timing, I can tell you that Carlos Fenno, we didn't see him in the practice session, and he wasn't around at nut stop. He's currently fastest with a 1:29.148, 1.5 seconds faster than Adrian Jimenez, who was leading throughout all of practice. As we're seeing Ronaldo Edo going for another timed lap. And again, they've got plenty of time to do it, another 10 minutes or so on the board. And then when we've had that 10 minutes, we will go straight into another little warm-up session before the racing begins. And during that warm-up, we'll be able to give you some adverts, give you time to have a little break from the screen, grab some water, grab some popcorn. You'll need the popcorn today, trust me about that. And then we can obviously get back into some racing with the race. So the first race is scheduled to start at 11:30. Whether that's on time or not depends on whether the server behaves itself correctly. But yeah, we can see we've got a yellow in Sector 1, which is perfectly normal. Again, coming around Clairvaux, Hawthorne and Chicane, it is difficult to keep the car on circuit. As we're just watching Reynolds Edo as he's coming around Sunny in. And then he has Sunny in, Sunny out, and then Complex just after. And Complex is the one that seems to be catching the most people out, as he's wide on entry, but not all the way wide, keeping off the rubber. Then he slings it in, being careful as he finds the rubber at the inside there. And then doing the same thing around the next right-hander. And then he's got hairpin to deal with. So Edo currently in 9th place. He's going to line this up for a very fast exit, and now he's onto his timed lap. And immediately ahead of him, he's looking at the braking markers for Clairvaux, which is a very, very fast right-hand corner, where the key is to just chuck it in, set yourself up for Hawthorne. As we go around there, try and keep it as tight as you can. Wide isn't fastest, and then you have Chicane right at the end of that, which you try and straight line as much as you can. And now it's a nice, long, very high-speed run all the way down to Tower Corner. Again, you don't need to be all the way over to the right-hand side on that run down, but at Tower, you need to take as much track as you can. Avoid the apex, it's too bumpy, and avoid that exit curb as well, because that will have you around in a second. Through Jim Clark S's now. It's a flat left and right, which sets you up for the fast right-hander just afterwards, which leads into Barcroft, the fastest corner on the circuit, and you're straight into Sunny in and then Sunny out. And as you can see, Ronaldo Edo doing a very good job to avoid the white lines as much as possible, avoid the curbs, because they will be slippy. Croft isn't a circuit that's designed for wet weather. As we're seeing Adrian Jimenez now going purple in Sector 1, 7/10 better than the previous pole lap, which he's set himself. He's beaten Fenno. He's currently 1.7 seconds ahead of Fenno, and he's found another 7/10. So what can he do in Sector 2? He's coming around Complex right now. We should have another sector time coming up on your screen, as we're seeing one of the Outcast cars just in the way there. I believe there's contact. That might have slowed Adrian Jimenez quite a lot, as we're seeing come around hairpin up towards the line. It's a very short run to the line here. And the second sector time is not on the board. I'm not sure what's happening with the time there, but there we go. Sector 2 has just come up at 6/10. I'm not sure whether the graphic on the screen matches what I'm seeing on track. Because I'm seeing Adrian Jimenez in Sector 1 right now, coming across up to Tower Corner. And the timing has got him elsewhere on circuit. But there we go. Everything's updated. There we go. It's just the server having a bit of a meltdown. But we are correct now. So Jimenez, 2.5 seconds over the next rival, which is Cabeza's speed for the Cheetah Racing team. That is impressive. So Carlos Fenno isn't as dominant as he has been in previous races. He's 3 seconds back from Adrian Jimenez. So this is going to be a real fight for the Sad Bombs GSR Racing team. Cabeza's speed doing a sterling job as well. We haven't seen, on the stream at least, we haven't seen the Cheetah Racing team up there in podium positions just yet. We've seen them fighting. We've seen the Kamikaze Racing team fighting for podium positions as well. But it's been mostly a Sadwam's GSR Racing versus Full and Brada Racing team. So to see Cabeza Speed up there in third place, that's really exciting. And we've got Asiite in fifth place for the Kamikaze Racing team. So again, the usual teams, they're up there. They're all squabbling. This is going to be a brilliant race. For the next couple of hours, we're going to enjoy this racing. As we're seeing, Ivan O just taking to the grass there at Sunny in and Sunny out. It is very easy to get it wrong there. I'm not going to lie. I did struggle last week. Again, less powered cars, slower lap times, drier circuit, and I still struggled at Sunny in, Sunny out, at Hawthorne. You know, the hairpins are very, very difficult. So I can tell you now that these drivers, they're doing all they can to keep it on circuit. They're doing all they can to get the fast lap times in, but it is just not the easiest thing in the world to do. So massive respect to the drivers, as we're seeing that Adrian Jimenez on the 126 has almost been matched by Carlos Fenno now. Carlos Fenno in second, 0.134 seconds back. So that's just over a tenth when he was 3 seconds back just a moment ago. And now there's 4 minutes left on the clock. Has he got time to find that tenth that he's missing? Cabeza Speed, again, he's still 2.5 seconds back. He hasn't improved since he got up into second place. That's been taken away by Fenno. We're just sat on board with Ivan O at the moment. Currently in 9th place. Personal best in Sector 1. 6 tenths away from the pole. But that's only 6 tenths. That could still let him get up into top 3. Again, we're just waiting for Sector 2 as he's coming around Sunny in, Sunny out. Sector 2 should be around here somewhere. As then he's going to head into Complex. There is a car ahead, but I don't think he's going to get impeded by the car ahead there. As he's just running a little bit wide into Complex. And he's coming around. We'll see Tower ahead. So another personal best at the end of Sector 2 there. And he's taking a very wide line around the hairpin there. I'm not sure why. That might slow him down a little bit. But he's coming up to the line now. It is a short run, and there he goes across it. And once the graphics update, we'll see a time. As he's back into the pits. So Ivan O moves himself up into 5th place. So he's still 3 seconds adrift from Adrian Jimenez. But wow, from 9th up into 5th, that is good going. Now we're on board with Shant Ardenwich. Now we did see some of Shant Ardenwich at the start of the session having difficulty with the tyres, with the level of grip. Of course, when these guys were practicing, it'll have been mostly dry laps. They would not have been expecting rain, despite it being Britain, you know, the rainy country. You would have expected a dry day with it being the middle of summer. But no, we do get rain in the middle of summer. It rains most of the time here, as I'm sure you can imagine. As Shant Ardenwich is just coming up to the hairpin now. Again, another very wide line around that corner. He cuts back to line the car up as best he can and floor the throttle. And now he's going to head down to the line. Again, it's a very short run to that line. He just goes through it there. And we do have a time on the board. But again, it's only enough for 9th. And 9th is still 5 seconds adrift from Carlos Fenno. So Carlos Fenno and Adrian Jimenez. Wow, Fenno has just gone faster. He's a 1:25.449. As we're seeing the new driver, Menno Dehan, for the Luffield Lunatics. Currently going into 9th place, taking that away from Shant Ardenwich with a 1:25.449. Again, Menno Dehan has only just come into this race for this round, so the practice he wants to put in to get into that top 10 squabble is absolutely amazing. So he is currently replacing one of the Luffield Lunatics. I think it was a limit of 3 drivers per team. As we're seeing, Danny 01 is just taking the 3rd spot from teammate Cabeza Speed. So the Cheetah Racing guys going really well at Croft. But in all honesty, in the touring cars, we do see that Hondas are very well suited to this type of circuit. As we're looking ahead at one of the GSR teams there. We're looking at a replay as well, bottom right corner. That is Adrian Jimenez just coming up to Tower. Sorry, that's Complex, that's not Tower, apologies. He's coming around the right-hander. This might be the point where he made contact with the Outcast's car. spins the ladder around before he heads down to the hairpin. We did see that on the stream. I'm not sure whether there will be an appeal from the Outcast driver. But again, the Full Labrada driver just wanted to do the best he can with the chance he can. So you can see a new graphic on your screen there. We have weather information. So you can see that the wind is quite slow at 6 kilometers an hour. Slow if you're in a car, but maybe not on a bicycle. Humidity 82%, and it is wet. So, you know, that probability of precipitation being 52%. And I'd say that you know, it's a bit more than that right now. Precipitation is 1.3 millimeters. So that is quite a bit of rain on circuit. 1.3 millimeters is enough to cause cars to aquaplane at Croft. As we see in the last 20 seconds of qualifying, I don't think Jimenez is on a lap. I don't think Jimenez is out there. Neither is Cabeza Speed. As we're seeing, qualifying ended. That is your result. So Carlos Fenner, wow. Jimenez, wow. I did not expect those two to continue swapping places the entire length of that qualifying session, nor for Fenner to find some magical lap and be 0.575 ahead of Jimenez. And we have Cabeza Speed and Danny, who were fighting for that third place. They're in 4th and 5th because we have somebody else in 3rd place. Imluka found some time, and he is right up there in 3rd place, a little bit away from the pace of the top two, no question. But look at the times from 3rd all the way down to 6th. You have 2.6, 2.8, 3.0, 3.2. You know, those are very close times. And around Croft, there is a slipstream effect, as we see. Confirmation, Carlos Fenner is your pole sitter. So slipstream's important here, and that battle, 3rd to 6th, that is going to rage for most of this race, especially if it remains wet for the first race. So these drivers will now be going into a warm-up session. That was exciting. That was really exciting. And to say that it's wet, I'm wondering how Rodriguez is doing. I'm wondering how Moretti is doing. And Asiite, because we usually see those a lot higher up than they are at the moment. And Danny and Cabeza Speed doing a very, very good job for the teams there. And I'm wondering what the chat is where you found 2 seconds over the rest of the field, because that is really good going from the two drivers up front, Carlos Fenner and Adrian Jimenez. Sad Bombs GSR Racing versus Full Labrada Racing Team. And as we are waiting for the next session to begin, I believe there will be an ad break shortly while the warm-up is taking place. I'm just waiting for a cue on whether we're going to see some graphics pop up on the screen for the total qualifying position. That might happen right before the race. It usually does. But we've not got ads set at the moment either, and the server has not decided to reset itself. So we're still looking at the end of the qualifying session and waiting for warm-up to begin. So yeah, if you're here we go. We're going to run to the ads and we'll see you in a sec. And welcome back to the WTCC hosted by League of Virtual F1. As you can see, we're at the Croft circuit. We have 16 laps for race 1. This is round 4 of 7. The rounds were shortened by 1 round. It now ends on the 24th of July. So the drivers only have this round and another 3 rounds to make it count. Now, Moretti isn't on server at the moment. He's currently your championship leader, but we're seeing an almighty battle happen at the top anyway. So it's going to be anyone's guess as to how this goes. As you can see, we've got weather information there. Air temp 17 degrees, track temp 45, but it's raining. It's wet at Croft, and that is causing the drivers a lot of problems staying on circuit. It is tricky. It's a very tight circuit in a lot of the places. Corners only really have one line through them. There's no specific wet line here. As we can see, the rest of the championship looks as follows. So Road Atlanta on the 10th of July, Macau on the 17th of July, and Abu Dhabi on the 24th of July. So, yeah, some very interesting circuits coming up. Some drivers' favourites for sure. But they're circuits that tend to throw up a lot of drama, as is Croft. So yeah, if you're into this series so far, if you're enjoying the coverage, enjoying watching the drivers, you're gonna want to stay tuned for the rest of it because it is gonna kick off in a big way when we get to see the drivers squabble for the positions there. So we shall be shortly heading out onto track for a grid formation and then a formation lap. Yeah, the championship's tight. We have Moretti 1 point over Carlos Fenno, and Carlos Fenno is a few points clear of Hosete HD, who is then a few points clear of Rodriguez, and then you have Adrian Jimenez currently in 5th. Now, Jimenez has missed around. He missed France. Rodriguez missed America, and Fenno missed the last round at Nutstop. So it's anyone's guess as to what is going to happen and what the results of this round are going to do to the championship. So we're seeing the grid form up. We will then have a formation lap and we'll be able to get the grid order for you up onto the screen. Again, we do reverse the qualifying order for a good few places, and this means that your pole sitters will not be Carlos Fenno and Adrian Jimenez. As we're just waiting for the rest of the drivers to get onto the grid, we can see that there's only a handful there at the moment. There is a kamikaze racing car up on the front row alongside one of the Luffield Lunatics. We'll be able to tell you who those are in just a moment. Look at the Formula Brother Racing team. All 3 drivers on the same side of the track, and there's only one car separating the 3 drivers. As we're seeing the drivers just move away on their formation now. And then we'll get the grid up for you in right now. And there we go. So on pole, when it bobs up onto screen, there we go. So Menno Dehaan, first time out, starting pole. Aceite Kamikaze Racing Team alongside. Hosete HD in 3rd with Ivan O in 4th. We have Fran Vinal in 5th with Danny O1 in 6th and Cabeza Speed in 7th. Good result from those guys. Adrian Jimenez in 8th then. And then in 9th we have Carlos Fenno. And then Shant Adamwich starting in 10th. We've seen a bit of him so far. Ronaldo Edo starting in 11th with Walter Duarte starting in 12th. We have Sondra Henny in 13th, NG Recab with Patricks in 14th alongside, and Saladin in 15th. We have for NG Recab again. So Hyperion and Recab definitely having a team fight of their own there. That is the order. We don't have any more cars on circuit for Croft. I think a lot of people thinking that this might be the circuit to take their break at. But that said, there's some very interesting team battles happening right now. As you've noticed, we have Fuan Labrada, Kamikaze Racing Team, and Sad Bombs GSR Racing, all in a bit of a squabble for that top spot. And then just a little bit further down, you have Cheetah Racing Team, who seem to be in a world of their own, but they're not a million miles away from the Kamikaze Racing Team. I mean, it's unlikely that they're going to catch Sad Bomb's GSR Racing Team, who are almost 100 points ahead, but the Kamikaze Racing Team still within striking distance. And then a little bit further down from Cheetah Racing Team, you have Hyperion Esports, Luffield Lunatics. They're having a bit of a squabble themselves. And then you have the Outcast NG Recab and HLZ all in a similar position with Team Honda having their own battle. So, teams-wise, having 3 drivers for each team is making it very interesting. The teams are doing a very good job, but the drivers, Moretti isn't here today, 1 point clear of Carlos Fenner, who is going to get that position back unless Jimenez can do anything about it. We have the lights on the gantry there, and away they go. Let's hope for a clean one. We've seen some clean racing. We want the same here today, as we're seeing on his first time around the circuit, replacing Conrad Osman in this race. We are seeing the brand new driver to the series leading into Hawthorne there, as we're seeing all the cars around the grid. There are a couple of drivers further back there. I'm just wondering whether they waited until everybody got away so that they could get on with their race without damage, without incident. That is sometimes the case, so we will get confirmation of what happened there. Further ahead, we're seeing cars side by side. That is contact. Unfortunately, that is contact. Kamikaze Racing Team comes together with, I think that was Adrian Jimenez. 88 is not Jimenez, that is Fran Vinal coming through. I'm sure it was Jimenez that got tagged there. I'm sure it was car 51. I didn't see the number on the Kamikaze Racing Team. It was going very, very sharp over Barcroft there. That might be a bit of a cut as we're seeing the car come back through. That might be just allowing the Full Liberado driver to take the rightful position, letting them back through after contact. Again, you can see how difficult it is to see anything as we see a Cheetah Racing car going off circuit there. That is not fun. I don't know whether they've put a wheel onto the grass on the outside of Sunny Out or whether they've got tagged, but that is not a fun place to be on the grass there. That will mean cold tyres coming back into complex, which is tight, left, right, and then hairpin. So a bit further back, we have car 13 here we're riding with. So this is Cabeza Speed, all on his own. So it would have been Cabeza Speed that found himself on the grass at some point or other. And now we're looking down. You can't see the braking point for turn 1. You're getting out of the spray there just to try and get a bit of a reference point. As we're seeing the markers, and then your braking point comes up on the left. And then you're going to sling it into Clairvaux before Hawthorne approaches. And you just cannot see the braking points. You cannot see the apexes until they're on you. The spray is that incredible. So Dehaan still leads on his first time out with the rest of this field. Still 2 seconds clear of Asiite. We know Asiite has pace. He's always been up there as we're seeing Dehaan. Dehaan has gone wide at Tower. That's taking him all the way off circuit, and that will give the position to Fenno, who was soldiered past Asiite down the straight towards Tower. And Fenno is now ahead of Dehaan as they run down towards Barcroft and Sunny Inn. So Dehaan did a sterling job for the first couple of laps, and he's gone wide there at Sunny Inn as well. So the pressure might be a little bit too much for a first timer to be running with such talent on their first go. But as we're seeing a little bit further back, there was Vinal and Jimenez, the Full Liberado cars, just lining themselves up on Asiite. And as Dehaan's going wide again at Complex, he will be the next in line for the 2 Full Liberado drivers in that Chevrolet. Coming down to the hairpin now, already lining up Dehaan. Again, sterling job not to cause an incident and to stay with the rest of the field on the first lap. I mean, if it was me on my first race, I probably would have bottled it. As we're seeing someone go a little bit sideways out of hairpin, that's to be expected. It is a wet track. It's easy to light up the rear tyres for those cars that are rear-wheel driven. As we see a new fastest lap from Carlos Fenner in the lead at the moment, 4.5 seconds clear of Vinal. Jimenez and Vinal will really want to close that gap. As we know, Vinal is a little bit further down in the standings, but he's not out of touch. Jimenez is on a real charge for Fenner right now. As Vinal lets him through, I think that might have been a sensible option. Let your teammate go chase down the leader, make sure that the battle stays in contention for everybody. As Dehaan and Jimenez go a little wide there, and I think there's contact to spin Dehaan around as Jimenez was trying to get back onto circuit, and that's put Dehaan all the way down into 9th place. That is unfortunate. So Dehaan is a little bit further back now. Did very, very well to stay in contention for the first few laps. We've had lap 1 and 2 done and dusted with Dehan all the way up at the front. And we have another handful of laps to go before we cross the line after 16 laps for this first race around Croft. And this is going to really test the drivers. It is so difficult in the dry and it's wet. So difficulty increased threefold as we're looking at Dehan coming around. But looking a little bit further ahead, Jimenez didn't lose too much time as Carlos Fenner sets another personal best of 27.989 for this race. As we're looking at Ivan O in battle with a Cheetah Racing Team car. Didn't quite see the number there as we're on board with Danny 01. So Danny 01 is in battle. Ivan 01 in 6th place. Danny 01 in 7th place. Danny 01 wanting to make up a place here as he's looking around Hawthorne, keeping it nice and tight, not running too wide. And then you have the lovely chicane, which is really fast right afterwards. Ivan O gets on the grass there. That will slow him down as they run towards Tower, but Danny 01 doesn't have enough momentum to do anything about it. Ivan O still manages to get on the brakes. Again, cold tyres, so he's going to go deep. Danny 01 takes a very careful line around the inside of the hairpin, and I believe that is job done. So Danny 01 takes 6th place. Ivan O left chasing in 7th. I don't think that's the end of that scrap just yet. But just a little further behind, you're seeing Shant Ardmuch there. 8th place for the Outcast driver in the ladder. So doing a very good job for his team indeed. Now we're looking at Wtcc HD lining up behind Asiite. Wtcc HD is one of the faster drivers of this championship, always throwing himself into the mix, as is Asiite, along with Morete. Rodriguez usually as well, but Rodriguez is not on track either at the moment. Ronaldo there just behind the Outcast driver. New best lap time from Jimenez, so Jimenez really getting a charge on as Ronaldo gets a place for free there as Duarte just finds himself going wide at Complex. As I said, it is so easy to do. Just a notification on screen for you there. Social media, get following people, get involved. We're seeing Duarte just getting himself going again, getting some heat into the tyres as best he can and running away with it. So, looking at the timing, we have a battle for 6th between Danny 01 and Ivan. We've been seeing that. We have a battle between Vinal, Asiite, Wtcc HD at the moment. Jimenez is 11 seconds away from Fenno, so I'm not sure Jimenez has got enough in the tank to catch. He still has 11 laps though, so if he's going to take time out of Fenno, as he does, as Fenno seems to lose 3 seconds there. Saladin for NG Recab. Oh, and the Hyperion Esports driver both going off at Clairvaux. Yeah, it's easy to do. You lock a wheel, you've gone too fast into the corner, you can't turn, it's gravel. Yeah, we have a few nicknames of that gravel trap for a few of the drivers that tend to end up there quite often. As it is a local circuit, I know it quite well. But yeah, Jimenez he was 11 seconds adrift of Fenno, he's now 9 seconds. It did drop down to 7.8. So as we're seeing from Carlos Fenno here, either he's made a mistake trying to go too fast, or he's just allowing that gap to close up a little bit. As we're seeing a battle, ooh, that's a very odd line across the hairpin there. Cabeza Speed makes a move on Shant Ardmuch, so Shant is down to 9th place, and unfortunately, right at the back of the grid, Saladin has come up as a DNF. I'm not sure if that's a technical issue or if something's gone wrong with the car, but that is very unfortunate after just 6 laps. I believe it would have been 5 laps where he DNF'd, so very sorry to see. Hopefully we'll get back into the mix for the next race, which is 21 laps, so it is a much longer race. It is a much harder race. If it is still wet for the second race, it is going to be challenging, to say the least. We're looking at a 3-way battle here. As I did mention, we have Vinal in 3rd ahead, the yellow and blue car, Fuenlabrada Racing Team just ahead. In the middle, we have Asiite attacking and defending at the same time around a very tricky circuit, and it's raining. Going to be difficult to see, going to be difficult to attack, difficult to defend. And Wtcc HD, he's attacking both drivers, but I think by the look of it, he's doing something sensible here. He's giving them space to make a mistake, while still remaining on a charge to try and take the positions. Aceite is right on the back of Vinal, so if Vinal makes a mistake, there's a good chance that Aceite will be collected there. So Rosetta HD might be 2 seconds behind Vinal, but in a wet race, you're slowed down that much by the water and the limited grip, there's a very good chance that 2 seconds could become 5 seconds in your favour if someone makes a mistake ahead. So, this battle is probably going to close up a little bit as the drivers get a bit more trust in the track, get a bit more trust in the tyres, get a bit more trust in each other, and then they're going to really start applying pressure. As I think Aceite is already starting to do that now. He's less than a second behind Vinal. Vinal, as we know, we saw from previous races that he is a really fast driver, but you know, he's not there with Fenno, he's not there with Rodriguez at the moment, but this is his chance. As we're seeing the gap at the front drop down a little bit more, 6.5 seconds now between Fenno and Jimenez. Is Carlos Fenno allowing Adrian Jimenez to close it up a little bit, just to dangle a carrot in front of his face in the hope that Adrian Jimenez makes a mistake from pushing too hard? But surely not, because Carlos Fenno has just put in a new best lap time, 26.049. So Fenno is really pushing. That means Jimenez is really pushing. And by the look of it, doing a slightly better job. But no, we're looking at Vinal. Vinal is in third. He is 9 seconds adrift of the lead. We have Aceite 1 second further back, and Rosetta HD 1.5 seconds further back from that. That battle will close up, and towards the end, we will see them thinking, I don't have much time left, I need to make a move. We're now looking at Cabeza speed. He did make the move on Shant Ardemwich a little while ago, catapulted himself from 9th into 8th. The next car is Ivanhoe, and we've seen these two battling before. We're watching a replay on your bottom right hand screen. That is the battle for first. So this is very early on in the race. We're seeing the Formula Brada car and the Kamikaze racing car as Dehan is off in the distance there and just rejoins, and that's what allowed Carlos Fenno into the lead there. So very unfortunate for Dehan in his first race, but Carlos Fenno very early on getting past Aceite and Dehan like it was child's play, like there was no problem at all to do it. So Carlos Fenno does still lead with a new best lap time, 23.625, so he has found an almighty time. Is this track now drying up? As Cabeza Speed's right on the back of Ivanhoe now, as they come down into hairpin, Cabeza Speed's surely thinking about lining up a move here. He takes a very shallow entry into hairpin there. That might be to try and find extra grip, I'm not sure. As we're seeing, Aceite is in the pits. Is Aceite putting dry tyres on? I'm not seeing as much spray as there was before. Is the track drying up enough for dry tyres? There's still 7 laps to go. Is this why Fenno is suddenly putting in some really fast laps? Back in the dry testing, the fastest lap time out there was a 1:15.4. So Dehan has not finished the race. He's come up as a DNF, unfortunately, after such a stelling job that he's done. Now with the track seemingly drying up, it would have been very interesting to see how he got on for the rest of the race. But we're hoping he comes back in race 2 even stronger and manages to get a decent result. I'm not seeing any spray behind Aceite here. No spray at all. A little bit of spray offline or off circuit. There is a dry line forming. Look at that dry line. So here we go. Edo now is in the pits. Jimenez, new best lap time, 1:21.336. This is a dry circuit now. We will see more people opt for dry tyres as Edo is in the pits, putting on a set of dry tyres for himself. We are going to see the lap times tumble, and there are going to be massive changes to the order with those who gamble for the dry tyres, those who went early, and those who are waiting and hanging on to the wet tyres. As we're looking at Fenno, Fenno is in the lead at the moment, but Jimenez is chasing him down. Fenno, however, fighting back with a purple first sector. That means fastest of anybody by 4.5 tenths. Now we're coming around Sunny Inn, And then we have Sunny out. It's a weird corner that once you've slowed the car down for Sunny in, it's then a balance game, and then you full throttle around Sunny out from Sunny in. Wow, Sector 2, 1.2 seconds faster than any other driver. That's on top of the 4.5 tenths of Sector 1. So this lap time is going to be almightily fast when compared with the previous times of a drying circuit. So that's a 120.405. That is very impressive. Very impressive. Even though Sector 2 was a personal best of this race, but only 1/10 slower than what he's previously done. So, you know, this is impressive going. He said, well, we're purple again. The track is getting that fast. Surely the wet tyres are going to start burning out soon. As we're just seeing one of the NG Recap drivers making space for Carlos Fenner to come through there. So we're purple again in Sector 1. We have a yellow in Sector 3, probably from someone either trying to cool some tyres down or struggling on an early change to dry tyres. And we're going to see a replay of an incident with Saladin. This might explain why he's not finished the race. So here we go, we're running up to turn 1. This might have been what we saw earlier, where Saladin just got it a little bit wrong going into Clairvaux, ended up in the gravel. Is looking at the inside of another driver there. Car doesn't turn, we're going too fast, and we're across the gravel, unfortunately. And then we're into Hawthorne, and then the tyres are ruined. It's very, very difficult to stay on track from there. So it may have had a further incident from there, we don't know, but we are on board with your race leader, Carlos Fenner, for the Sad Bombs XGSR racing team, currently leading by a long way and still setting purple time after purple time. Look at that, 0.3 faster in the first sector. We are getting very close to the 1:15.4s that we saw on dry practice testing. We're 4 seconds away. 4 seconds away from the perfect dry times, and you can see that on the edge of the racing line there, it is still wet. So the track isn't optimum. There's a lot of rubber washed away, and yet Carlos Fenner is very, very close to the dry times on wet tyres. As we're seeing car 77 just giving him space to get past. So that's Valter Duarte now lapped, and that's up to 10th place. So Carlos Fenner has been flying around this circuit. Someone just give him a name badge of Starship and just send him on his way, because he's going for it. He might as well have a few Raptor engines in that bonnet sending him forward. But look a little bit further back. Jimenez, 3.8 seconds. New best lap time for Carlos Fenner, 19.804. 2 purple sectors. But Jimenez is closing. Jimenez is 3.8 seconds behind Fenner right now, which is an awful lot closer than the 11 seconds they were at on lap 5. 3.4 seconds. This gap is falling. It is falling dramatically. Speaking of gaps that have fallen dramatically, Vinal is still in 3rd place, but in 4th place it's Josete HD that might not have stopped. We saw Aceite stop in the pits. He's on the dry tyre now in 8th place, chasing down Cabeza's Speed and Ivan O. And then it's Danny 01 in 5th, who hasn't stopped. So that could be something that doesn't quite work for Aceite there. He was running in 4th place, chasing down 3rd place, but he's made a gamble, as we're seeing Ivan and Cabeza's Speed still locked in that battle that we saw earlier. These two were very, very close earlier, having a bit of a scrap, but they haven't really done anything to set each other apart. We did see these two battling quite a lot and not stop. Unfortunately, there was contact there. We're hoping there's not the same thing today, but these two drivers are on par with each other. You know, the pace is no different between either driver, as Cabeza's Speed is very close to that bale. Don't touch that bale, because that does not move Cabeza's Speed, as we see him getting very close to the hairpin there. Ivan O takes off because he's got a bit of a better exit as Ivan O. whereas Cabeza Speed's got the better entry, having the shorter wheelbase Honda Civic as they run down to Clairvaux, chuck it into the corner, very high speed, still on the brakes now as we slow down for Hawthorne. Keep it tight as you head around to the chicane, car building speed all the time, and you almost straight line that chicane. It might as well not be there. And then we're heading down towards Tower now, as the gap is less than 4/10. So definitely time for Cabeza Speed to start thinking about where this move is going to happen. Very bumpy on exit there. Ivanhoe struggles on the exit curb. That allows Cabeza Speed up onto the outside at the Jim Clark S's. That isn't going to work, so he has to back out of that. Very wide coming off that. That's going to cool the tyres down quite a lot, as they're now down into Sunny in after Barcroft. So this battle's interesting. We've seen these two battle quite a lot over the previous races. These two have got score to settle. We now get a new best lap time from Adrian Jimenez. Adrian Jimenez had the best time in dry practice testing. So Jimenez is really on the charge now. Jimenez and Fenno are very close. We are on lap 15, 2.2 seconds. If Fenno feels pressured that much that he makes a mistake, then Jimenez is going to be right there with him. This is incredibly interesting here, as we're just joined by Menno Dehaan. Menno Dehaan did unfortunately have a DNF after running very well at the start of the race, and his debut race at Croft as well. He's not raced with these drivers before, so very well done to Menno Dehaan, and we will get to Menno Dehaan in just a second, as Cabeza Speed is once again lining up Ivan. I think he wants to make the move at Sunny. If you can get down the inside at Sunny in, Ivanhoe will not be able to defend and hold the line at Sunny out. I don't think Cabeza Speed is close enough this time. Or is he? Because Ivanhoe makes a mistake on the brakes there, and Ivanhoe has lost the place to Cabeza Speed. That was very quick thinking from Cabeza Speed. He saw Ivanhoe lock his left front and thought, that is it, that is me, I'm going down the inside. Licked it, stuck it, sent it. You know, that was perfect reactions from Cabeza Speed, who now finds himself in 6th place. Ivanhoe relegated to 7th place, but probably not for long, because Ivanhoe will want to be back up into that 6th place as best he can. As we're seeing, we're on lap 16 now. Fenno is 1.5 seconds ahead of Jimenez, so I'm going to keep my eye on that gap while we just have a look at a replay from Dehaan. We have a replay to show you shortly of what happened to Dehaan and why there's a DNF. We might have to wait for post-race to get that up. Again, not everything works perfectly, so we will be able to show you at some point, though, hopefully. Keep your fingers crossed. But, look at Ivan. He's getting right back onto the back of Cabeza Speed. Was seeing now Fenno. Look at how close Jimenez has gotten. So Fenno comes across to win the race after leading from lap 2, after getting past Dehaan. And Adrian Jimenez, after being almost 12 seconds back, crosses the line just over a second behind. So fantastic job from Fenno to build enough of a gap to hold on to that and then to hold on to it. But what a job from Jimenez to close the gap so quickly. Fantastic racing from the both of them. Vinal is in 3rd place. Great race after not being around at the last race. As we get confirmation on the bottom of your screen there, race winner is Carlos Fenno. Josete HD in 4th place. Another good result from the Fruin Labrada driver. Danny 01 in 5th with Cabeza Speed after that fantastic move in 6th place. So well done to the Cheetah Racing drivers. Ivanhoe in 7th place with Asite after that gamble didn't work, finishing in 8th place. Might not be too happy with that, I don't think. But we will, of course, see him come back. So here are your official results. Carlos Fenno in 1st. Adrian Jimenez in 2nd. Team battle, driver battle, that's raging at the moment. Fran Vinal in 3rd. Josete HD in 4th. Both Fruin Labrada Racing Team cars trying to take points away from Sad Bombs GSR. Cheetah Racing with Danny 01 in 5th and Cabeza Speed in 6th. Very good team result. And again, Ivano and Asiete for Kamikaze in 7th and 8th. And then the Outcasts, another double lineup, Shant Adamwich and Valter Duarte in 9th and 10th. So it is 2x2 for a lot of the teams, unless you're throwing Labrada, where you've got all three there. And if you're Sad Bombs GSR, you've only got one driver in the top 10. But that's a very good result for the top 10, I am sure. And I'm wondering if we'll get qualification of the next three drivers that qualified. Oh, we had Patrix and Ronaldo Edo that also did not finish. So that gives 11th to Sondre Henny. Now, that's unfortunate to see so many drivers not finishing the race. Unfortunately, Saladin went out quite early after running wide at Clairvaux, and Menno Dehaan did have difficulty, which we're hoping we might get to see if we can get a replay that works. So, yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but to be honest, for Luffield Lunatics, Menno Dehaan has done a fantastic job to start on pole after qualifying in the right position to get promoted in the reverse order start of the race. But then to not make any mistakes off the line, to not cause any incidents, and to get around the first lap still leading, that is incredibly, incredibly good going from the Luffield Lunatics driver. So he's got to be happy with his performance despite not being able to finish the race. And we'll see in this next race, hopefully, some better results. The next race is 21 laps. We will shortly be going to an advert as the sessions switch over. It will be another warm-up session to let the drivers get used to how the cars feel on a full tank of fuel. Again, they will have worn that fuel all the way down to an empty tank. As you saw from the times, incredibly close to the personal best of Adrian Jimenez and Jose THD, both of them doing a 1:15.4 in dry testing. So we're going to see some very fast laps now as the track does seem to be dry. And we are going to an ad break shortly, I believe. Welcome back to the World Touring Car Championship hosted by Liga Virtual F1. We are currently lining up for race 2. We have 20 laps. The weather icon does still show raining, so there may still be some water on circuit, but there's definitely a dry line there. We have a replay working from what happened to Dehaan in the previous race that we are just about to show you. For lap 1 and part of lap 2 until Fenno made the move when Dehaan went off. And as we're looking at the replay, we're seeing this is the run to Sunny Inn. Or have I got that wrong? No, that is the chicane. So we've gone a little bit too hot around Hawthorne there. A little bit wide. Once you've gone wide, it's easy to find some water. Car doesn't agree with it, doesn't turn. And then you're staring at some barrels thinking, okay, I can either hit the first one or I can try and get through between in the escape section. Unfortunately for Dehaan, he's tried to go left and get between them and hit the bale in the middle there. They don't move. So if you hit those, your car stops, but all the parts continue going. So unfortunately, Dehaan unable to continue there. That's a real shame. After such a strong start to the race on his debut event, it is very, very unfortunate. But I'm sure with 20 laps in this second race, I am sure Dehaan will make his way back up the field to the sharp end of the grid, where if race one's anything to go by, there are some fantastic battles waiting for him. So yeah, there we go. And I believe the warm-up session should be over now. And we're just waiting for the grid to form up. But you can see there that the race length, 20 laps, 2 mile length track. If you've ever been to Croft, I mean, there's cycling events, there's running events, there's racing events, all sorts of things happen up at Croft. Tiny little place in North Yorkshire. Absolutely lovely place to be. They do all sorts of things there. And it's very, very windy. That's the thing about Croft. No matter where you stand on circuit, you're exposed to the wind. It's very, very flat and very, very technical. So despite those long straights, allowing the cars to build up all that speed, the second you're on the brakes or the second you start turning in, you're not just dealing with tire grip, you're not just dealing with the fact that there's water offline there, they're also dealing with the wind. Which I know it only said it was quite slow, 6 kilometers an hour when the event started, but that's still going to play havoc for these front wheel drive cars like the Honda Civic. Their rear end will be set up very, very tight to allow the car to rotate. But if that's then caught by the wind, they're going to over rotate. And I think we saw that just at the start, where I believe it was Cabeza Speed who went off just before Complex. Obviously doing a good enough job to come back through the field. But is that going to play into the hands of the heavier cars in the second race? It is a longer race, so tiny, tiny little variables like that will make a larger difference. So if you think that is going to affect the race, let us know. Get on Twitch, give us a comment, let us know what you think. Of course, if you are watching this later on in the week on YouTube, then hello to you from Twitch. But yeah, Twitch is where it happens live every Saturday morning. 11 is when we start. Yeah, this is eyeing up to be a fantastic climax to this championship. Carlos Fenner will obviously now have the championship lead after being 1 point behind Murete. But Jimenez was 1 point behind Rodriguez, so will now be ahead of Rodriguez. He was only 12 points behind Wtcc HD. Now, Wtcc HD did quite well out there for the Fool and Brad racing team, so I don't think he's gotten ahead of his teammate just yet, but he's certainly doing the right things to do that. The question is, can he get ahead of Fenno? Wtcc HD and Jimenez both want to be ahead of Carlos Fenno, but is Carlos Fenno going to give them an opportunity to take the fight to Fenno? We will see. We will see as the graphics disappear on screen. You can see the weather now. It's still cloudy, it's still overcast, but it is a lot brighter. You can see there's a bit of a haze as the humidity in the air just dissipates over the track, and you can see that there are no puddles down at Clairvaux there. The racing line has disappeared from the circuit, so either it's just mildly moist on circuit right now, or it is completely dry. We will see when the cars get onto their formation lap, which should be happening any second. We can see there's nobody on circuit at the moment. Or if they are on circuit, they're taking a very long time to come around. But we should have a grid forming up. And there we are. We have lights on the gantry. So we are preparing to go racing as half the grid is still missing. We are waiting for those cars to get themselves together. And then we will be live for race 2. 20 laps around Croft. We're seeing one car missing from the grid there. I can't see the lights on the gantry. There we are. We have a full grid. So I imagine the lights are going right now. We are building up to race 2. We have Fenno. Oh, there we go. Formation lap is underway. So here is your starting order. Carlos Fenno, Sad Bombs, GSR Racing in first. Adrian Jimenez in second alongside Cabeza Speed behind with Danny 01 alongside with Cheetah Racing. In fifth place, we have Fran Vinal alongside Ivan O with Wtcc HD in seventh alongside Asiite, 2x2 for the teams. Then back down in ninth place, we have Menno Dehaan with a chance to get further ahead, Shant Adamwich in 10th and Rinaldo Edo in 11th. Walter Duarte starts in 12th, and that puts 13th place Sondre Henny for the NG Recap Sim Racing team alongside Saladin for NG Recap Sim Racing. Now, those two drivers will be hoping to make some places up and score some points this time around. It's been a difficult season for those two drivers, and we're hoping to see something more. There's lots of spray, so it has rained again. So the haze must have been the rain rather than a drying circuit, and there is no dry line there at all. So there's your circuit map. So you have the start line, which leads to Clairvaux, Hawthorne, Chicane. That's merges all into one corner. Tower Bend is next, which, as we know, is very bumpy on the apex, is very bumpy on the exit. You have to take that perfectly. Jim Clark S's, it's flat through there. There's not that much room to overtake. It can be done, but it will make you slow into Barcroft. And then the next braking zone, Sunny In. Sunny In leads into Sunny Out. It merges into one corner. Get that wrong, and you are off circuit in a bad way. There are tire barriers down there. They will end your race. Complex is incredibly slow. It's a left and then a double right. You have to slow the car down while the car is turning to be quick. That double right-hander is incredibly slow, but not quite as slow as Hairpin. And Hairpin, you kind of have to take it wide on entry to get a good exit. Of course, wet line-wise, there isn't really a great wet line around this circuit. As you see from Clairvaux, Hawthorne, and Chicane, there's only one line around there that you can take without going off and hitting a bale. Those are usually race endings, so as you saw from Dehaan, you don't want to hit a bale. Looking further round, Tower Bend, you can get away with making a mistake there. So that's probably one of the easiest places to push, but it's also one of the easiest places to unsettle the car. If you do that, it's flat all the way down to Sunny In, and that's a long, long way. So if you're going to lose places, that's probably going to be it. But also, it's an opportunity to make places. As we saw from Ivanhoe, when he locked that front left going into Sunny Cabeza's speed was straight down the inside. No hesitation whatsoever. Instant decision. Yep, I'm sending it. So that was a fantastic move, and we're expecting to see a bit more of that. There's a few cars in the pit complex there. I thought we were going around for a formation lap. Obviously not. I'm not sure what's happened to the track. But there you go. So, elevation, 290 metres above sea level. It is quite flat around this part of North Yorkshire. Mostly farms and airfields, dating way, way back to World War II, which is where this circuit originated. So yeah, 2.05 miles really. And again, it is straights and difficult corners. And that's what makes this circuit so exciting. And we're looking forward to a very exciting battle. As we get into the second race, we have the Sad Bombs GSR racing driver, Carlos Fenno, all on his own. No teammate support right now. He has to fend off Adrian Jimenez, who we know is insanely quick around this track, as well as Josete HD and Fran Vinal. It's evident from the three drivers that they've been working together as a team to try and find the fastest way around here. Kamikaze Racing, they don't have Moretti with them, but Asite and Ivan are still doing a sterling job. Are they going to get in the mix and give any of the front runners a hard time this time around? We've seen them do it before. We will see them do it again. They really have the chance to be the shark amongst the group, as well as the Cheetah Racing team. Seeing Danny O1 and Cabeza Speed all the way up there for most of the race, and making some fantastic moves on other drivers without the dramas that we've seen in previous rounds. You know, it's very, very good going there. So we're looking forward to seeing some more of that, as we're still waiting for confirmation that we are going into the second race. We are now a little behind schedule. Race 2 should have started at 5 to 12. We're now at 15:15. We did have that incident to look at from the debut driver, who is on circuit at the moment, Menno Dehaan. I'm just struggling to see sector times here. We're back down into some quite slow sectors. So I'm just wondering whether drivers are trying some different things right now. It is a longer race here, but they all seem to be out on slick tyres, despite there being spray behind the cars. Now, obviously, that does give an explanation for why they're so slow around a lap. But why would you want to start on slick tyres if the track is wet? This is going to make turn 1 very interesting indeed. Will anybody gamble for a wet tyre? As we're seeing cars turning around in the pit garage there, that is a bug and a feature of the simulation that we're using at the moment. Gives us some entertainment at the very least. as the session has ended. I believe it was a second warm-up session there. We will go to a grid and formation lap now. And we're looking at the chance of precipitation. So right now, 80% chance that it is going to rain again. Again, you can see blue skies in the background there, so it's not raining right now on circuit. 16 degrees air temperature. By 1 o'clock, that chance of precipitation drops to 60%. So the chance of rain is falling minute by minute, as we're seeing. That cheetah racing car seems to like doing barrel rolls while stationary. That's entertaining to say the least. But that's one of the quirks about sim racing. Not everything's perfect, and sometimes you get a little bit of a laugh here and there. So, track looks dry. We have a grid forming right now, a few cars missing at the minute, but that looks like a dry track. Whereas the warm-up, as you've just seen, was definitely wet. Everybody's on slick tyres, which would indicate a dry track. So a lot of these drivers are going into this race not knowing what the tyre grip is going to be like, which makes Clervaux and Hawthorne and Chicane a little bit interesting, considering that these are all nose to tail and side by side right now. There we go. We seem to have a full grid as we go around for the formation lap, and I'm wondering whether we will get another confirmation of grid order. And we're going to see that on screen right now. So again, we have Carlos Fenno starting in pole with Adrian Jimenez in second place, with Cabeza Speed and Daniel One teammates right behind for Cheetah Racing. In fifth place, we have Fran Vinal for Fuenlabrada, Ivano in sixth place alongside. Behind them, Josete HD for Fuenlabrada and Acite for Kamikaze. So teammates 2x2. In ninth is Menno Dehaan, hopefully making up some more places. Shant Adamwich in 10th for the Outcasts. Edo in 11th for Sad Bombs GSR. And Duarte in 12th. In 13th, it's Sondre Hene and Patrix for Hyperion in 14th alongside. And Saladin in 15th. So Patrix obviously rejoining the server there, thankfully. We're expecting to see something decent from a lot of these drivers that want to make it a little bit further up the grid. I know that it's difficult when you're at the back. Incidents come from every which way, but we're seeing some interesting racing further back. It's a bit cleaner than it was the first time I commentated, and it's improving every single race. So I'm hoping to see some great racing further back there, and we know it's going to be great racing further up ahead. It's Fenos versus Jimenez, round 4, race 2 at Croft Circuit. Now, is anybody else seeing all the spray behind the cars? Because I really am. Sky is blue. Track is, there's no dry line on the track. It's all one colour. But that is a lot of spray behind the drivers. And looking at live timing, every single driver is on a slick tyre, which means they've just done an outlap, essentially, from the grid around to the grid, to start up in their starting order on a wet track, going slowly on slick tyres, which means when they get off the line, those tyres are going to be ice cold. There will be no pressure in them, which makes them incredibly slippy. This is going to be a very difficult first turn, as we now have all of the cars lined up on the grid. There would be a green flag behind waving right about now, as we just see the final car getting into position, and the lights on the gantry light up in sequence as we get ready for race 2 underway of Croft Circuit now. Fenno fending off Jimenez. That'll be interesting for the rest of this race. Jimenez kind of looking down the inside, kind of just giving space. A little bit further back, we're seeing the Kamikaze Racing team cars side by side. No incidents at Clervaux. I'm wondering if there's any incidents at Hawthorne. Doesn't look that way at the moment, though we are seeing a yellow flag. Someone might just be slightly wide, as we're seeing the rest of the cars coming around. You cannot see anything through what becomes fog of all the water being kicked up into the air. Doesn't appear to be raining right now, as we're seeing one of the Kamikaze team cars just getting a little bit wide there, and then there's contact on the rejoin. I believe that was Ivan who made contact with one of the Fuenlabrada team cars, and there's further contact as nobody can see anything in the fog there. And there is that Fenos I hope that's not Fenos. I hope Fenos is still in the lead of this race. That could be Reynaldi Edo a little bit further back, but carnage at the back as one car went around and collected a lot of other cars. It has to be said. So, wow, Jimenez is in first. So Fenno is in second place right now. Vinal is right behind in third place after making up 2 places off the grid. There is Fenno, and you'll see Jimenez in the distance there. Quite a bit of a gap already. We saw Fenno was mighty in the wet. Jimenez better in the dry. The tables have turned, and Jimenez is leading the way, building a gap over Fenno, which is now 2.3 seconds. Further back, Shant Ardenwich looking at some spray, looking at somebody else going through the pits, which is Ivan O, might be repairing some damage after that contact at Tower. And we're seeing Shant Ardenwich fending off the car. Wow, that's a little bit wide there, Shant, and that is going to give a place to... Oh my word, there's a Formula Labrada driver off circuit, car 18. That is Wtcc HD, unfortunately, made contact with the Outcast car and ended up driving along the wall, it seemed. Now he will be either wanting to get back to the pits to repair the car or to get on with his race. He's now down in 13th places, Wtcc HD, but that is very unfortunate there. Coming around Hawthorne, collected by the Outcast car, who ran very, very wide around Clairvaux, trying to fend off Reynaldi Edo, who is now up into 8th. That is not really what you want to see, unfortunately. But we will get a replay, I'm sure, later on down the line. But here we are, Wtcc HD, now lining up one of the NG recap drivers. I believe, if I'm correct, that might be Saladin car 15, as Saladin does quite sensibly choose to follow Wtcc HD, see what he can learn from the faster driver, who's now up into 11th place. Car doesn't seem to be too damaged. He's making some decent ground on the drivers behind, and his next target will again be Shant Ardenwich, and we're going to see a replay of just what happened at the start. So we saw a car going a little bit sideways there, coming out of what's it be the first corner. There's Ivan O. They are 1/10 apart. This is heating up, people. This is a long race, and this is very early in to these races, and we're seeing such tight gaps amongst the field here. We have Reynaldi Edo making his way back up through the field. Next in line is Cabeza Speed. I'm not seeing any update on the gap ahead, so it must still be 3/10 from Jimenez to Fenno. We're still waiting for the racing to come back here, as I believe we've still got a dark screen on Twitch as well. Apologies for the pictures, guys. We will get those back as soon as possible. Thank you for sticking with us, as we're now back looking at Shant Ardenwich. Shant Ardenwich going quite wide there at Sunny out, and you can see that the gap has changed. The gap has changed. Somehow the graphics on screen say the interval between Fennos and Jimenez is now 3.7 seconds. That is odd. That is odd, because the gap on live timing says it's much, much closer. I'm wondering whether all the other gaps are correct. But Cabeza Speed now has Dehan behind. And Dehan, as you saw, did very, very well in those opening laps. Debut race, but unfortunately made a mistake around Hawthorne, and instead of making the corner at chicane, ended up finding a bail instead. Now, behind Dehan, did you see the very striking blue and orange livery of the Sad Bombs GSR racing car? That would be Reynaldi Edo trying to make his way back through the field. We're looking at a battle which has been destined to rage on for most of the race. We're seeing a dry line forming now. So Jimenez, 1:18.633. We're seeing the dry times come back here. I don't know if anybody has put dry tyres on. Again, it's a longer race. We're on lap 6 of 3 seconds ahead of Fenno. Live timing obviously not giving me a correct gap. But we have Asiete in third, Vinal in fourth, Danny 01 in fifth, being chased down hard by his teammate Cabeza Speed, who likewise is being chased by Menno Dehaan. And Dehaan, debut race, you've got to give credit to the guy. He is just doing a sterling job. I don't know how much practice he's put into this, but he's not raced around these drivers before. He doesn't know what to expect from them. And yet, he did very, very well up until he found a bail. And now he is sitting comfortably in 7th, chasing down Cabeza Speed. Asiete runs wide. He ran wide there out of Sunny Out. That's going to give Fran Vinal an opportunity to close that gap. We are less than 8/10 between them coming down into hairpin. New fastest time from Adrian Jimenez, 1:18.294. As Asiete and Vinal come up to the line. Which one of these drivers is going to be faster on the dry tyres? We saw, if I'm looking into the dry testing, Asiete did a 16.457 in dry testing. Fran Vinal was a little bit slower than that, 1:18.526. So Vinal, judging by the pace of Jimenez, could be coming up to his limit, but nonetheless is still chasing down Asiete. And of course, because he's chasing a driver that's done a faster time, he'll be able to learn and figure out where he can go faster and where he can find time. And certainly at Tower, he is finding a lot of time as Asiete is slow out of Tower. So down into Sunny Inn, Fran Vinal's going to have an opportunity here to outbrake Asiete. Does he go for it? He doesn't. He sits in, he waits, puts more pressure on Asiete, who is really under attack now. Fran Vinal is close enough to strike. Asiete not yet defending, not yet finding the need to put the car in a position to prevent Vinal from sending it down the inside. And if I was Vinal, I'd be sending it by now. Adrian Jimenez, new fastest lap, 1:17.779. We are 2 seconds adrift of the best time set in dry testing. So these guys are very, very close. This is why they started on slicks, as we're seeing Vinal tucking in very close to the back of Asiete, who went quite deep on the brakes there into Clairvaux and then Hawthorne and made a little bit of ground ahead of Vinal there. But Vinal sitting in comfortably. He's a lot closer than he was last lap. He got the better exit out of Tower and had an opportunity at Sunny Inn. So he's again going to keep it neat coming around Tower. And unfortunately this time, Asiete looks to have got the better exit. Although this Chevrolet of the Full Umbrella Racing Team seems to be slightly faster than the Volvo of the Kamikaze Racing Team as they're getting quite close. Asiete does take a rather big hit over Barcroft there. Doesn't get all the way to the outside of the braking zone for Sunny Inn, but nonetheless keeps his car a little ahead of Fran Vinal, who's taking a tighter entry into complex, braking around the corner before these two tight right-handers, and then you have the hairpin. And then Adrian Jimenez once again, new best lap time, 1:17.460. That gap to Fenno is now almost 4.5 seconds. So Jimenez, after taking a punch in the face of dropping to 11 seconds behind Fenno, Jimenez is saying, right, my turn to punch you in the face, Fenno. I'm going to break away from you in 5 seconds almost ahead of the GSR Racing driver. So the gap for Vinal, it seems to be falling to Asiete's benefit. I don't know what it is, but Asiete doesn't seem to be going all the way to the edge of the circuit in the braking zones. Neither does Vinal. So maybe the circuit's not dry enough, but Vinal does seem to be able to get a better exit out of Tower. That means Sunny Inn has to be the place where he sends it. He has to send it on the brakes into Sunny Inn, upset Asiete for the middle of the corner, which is on the outside, as Vinal goes very, very wide and makes the mistake that I had not seen yet. So a lot last week, however, and that does send Vinal a couple of seconds behind Asiete with all the work to do. Again, Jimenez now 1:17.196. So that every single lap now, that time is falling. And it's going to give Fenno a lot of work to do. Fenno's best time during the dry practice was a 1:17.638. We are already 5/10 faster than that from Adrian Jimenez, whose fastest time in dry practice was a 1:15.424. This race looks like it is set for Jimenez to win. Fenno won't like that because Fenno wants to be leading. He wants the championship, so he's going to be doing all he can to try and catch Jimenez. But most importantly, if Fenno pushes too hard, these guys you're looking at right now, Asiite and Fran Vinal, if Fenno goes off circuit, these guys could be passed. And that will upset Carlos Fenno. And I don't know whether that's what Jimenez is hoping to try and force, as he's now 5.5 seconds clear of the GSR racing driver. But then there's the team championship as well, where Phil and Brada are locked horns with the Sad Bombs GSR racing team. Jimenez again breaks the 17 mark, 1:16.977. Only just, but it is still fast enough to break that 17 mark. The pressure's on. Carlos Fenno hasn't done those times in practice before today. In wet, he was almighty, was Carlos Fenno, but in the dry, credit to Jimenez. 11 laps in, 5.5 seconds clear of Carlos Fenno, 14 seconds clear of Asiite. Looking a little bit further back now, there are some battles forming. Remember I said that Cabeza Speed and Danny were having a bit of a scrap early on. Obviously practiced together because they were on a similar sort of pace. They're close together again. Unfortunately, Ivan's a bit further back, so he's not up there with Cabeza Speed this time. We did see that incident at the start of the race. Ivan had to go through the pits. Well, Ivan's catching Saladin, so that could be a battle very shortly. Unfortunately, Deheny and Duarte are DNF. That's unfortunate. We've seen it a few times already, though. We're hoping we're going to see some great racing and some good results from those drivers eventually, as we're seeing the gap get a little bit closer now. Vinal closing up to Asiite. This is currently still the closest battle on track right now, but by the looks of it, not for long. I think Reynaldo Edo might be closing on Dehan. I think if we can switch to that right now, Edo has closed right up to Dehan. I'm not sure whether that was a mistake, but suddenly there's just a few tenths between them. Just a few tenths. Dehan now has to find a way to defend against the Sad Bombs GSR racing driver. Again, Reynaldo Edo is a very good driver. We saw earlier in the series that Reynaldo Edo had some very good results, taking a very good exit out of hairpin there, and Dehan does what he can to defend. One move is allowed. He didn't make anything sudden upset the drivers, but he's taking that inside line around Clevo, which is going to give him the perfect opportunity to hold Edo off around Hawthorne. As long as he keeps it on track at chicane and doesn't hit the bail again, he'll keep that going around the straight down to Tower now. Edo is trying to find an opportunity, trying to see where he can get through. Dehan, debut race, not raced with Edo before, doesn't know what Edo is going to do. All he's got is his mirrors. No experience, but he's got his mirrors, and he's doing a very good job to keep the leading team behind. Because don't forget, Sad Bombs GSR Racing, they are the team's leader of the championship, as both cars opting to get some heat into the tyres there, send it sideways into Sunny, and build pace through Sunny out into Complex now. This is where Edo found all that time to catch right on the back of Dehan, and we're seeing Dehan doing a wonderful job at the moment. He seems to have stretched that gap. That's the best way to defend. If you can pull a gap, that is the best way to defend from a car that felt like having a little look down the inside of your car. Dehan coming across to the left nice and early, just cooling the tyres down there. I'm wondering if he put too much heat into them, going sideways into Sunny in and Sunny out. Edo didn't feel the need to do that, but Dehan runs far too wide around Hawthorne. That brings Edo right onto the back of Dehan. Dehan defending on the run down to Tower. This left-hand kink does make a difference, as we're seeing now. Dehan on the inside under the brakes, side by side around Tower. Dehan's got the shallower line, but it's bumpy at that apex. Edo has to forfeit on the bumpy curb though, because that curb will upset you and send the car around especially when it's wet. Barcroft on the brakes into Sunny In. Dehaan defending for all that his life can defend. Edo trying everything to put pressure on or to send it down the inside. Either he's going to force Dehaan into a mistake or he's going to get down the inside. Edo is giving it everything. But Dehaan, first time out, debut race, what a job from this gentleman for the Luffield Lunatics. Again, we're not seeing Benjamin Jones or Ben Corbin on circuit at the moment. Dehaan is wearing the number of Conrad Osman, replacing that driver for this round at Croft. Round 4 of 7. As we're seeing Edo once again taking a tight line around Hawthorne. That is the faster line. And Dehaan does go slightly wider there. Again, it helps you build pace going slightly wider, but you lose so much time that it is faster to take it tighter. Again, Edo forced down the outside, but squeezing a bit more at Tower this time. Dehaan's going to have to take more of those bumps as there's contact. Dehaan is around. Dehaan is around. Edo gets away, but unfortunately Dehaan is around, but gets the car all together, keeps it out of the wall, and he's away. And he's going to continue to chase. Can he get back on level, on par, and catch back up to Rinaldi Edo? That was a fantastic battle. I would love to see some more of that. But Rinaldi Edo wanted to be passed. He wanted that 7th place. He's now going to go chasing after Danny 01. So if he catches in the next 5 laps, which, you know, with a 10-second gap might be unlikely, then we might see some more battles there. But we're looking back at the battle for 3rd and 4th. This is Fran Vinal, once again putting some pressure on Asite. The gap for your lead, by the way, is now stretched out to 8.2 seconds. So not quite the gap that Fenno pulled out over Jimenez before Jimenez just shrank it. So, yeah, it's still an almighty gap. It really is. Fenno's done a wonderful job to do what he can and hold on to 2nd place there. Jimenez, absolute world-class talent, just pulling away in the dry there and closing all that time in the wet. And we're seeing Hazata HD. Hazata HD is in the pits. Why is he in the pits? He's changing tyres. Maybe the tyres are on their last legs. Maybe some of these drivers have worked the tyres too hard and they need to change tyres. If that is the case, this is a spanner in the mix. Because if certain drivers can avoid stopping, then that's nearly 30 seconds to the drivers that don't stop. Ivan, now as you saw earlier on, did make a mistake earlier on. He's looking at the back of a fluent Labrada driver, which will most likely be Carlos Fenno, because Edo is only a few seconds down the road. Obviously, Carlos Fenno lapping the Kamikaze Racing Team driver after the unfortunate incident at the start and then Ivan's subsequent pit stop. But ahead, you have Adamwich, who, as we've seen, has struggled for the top 10 positions, but Adamwich is in 9th right now. And with the space between them, I don't think Ivan's got what it takes to make up a place. But we're about to see a replay of the start again. As you see, one car goes very, very wide and sideways out of chicane. Ivan goes deep on the brakes, can't make the corner, panics and just comes straight back out onto the track where one of the Fuwan Labrada racing cars are waiting. Contact ensues between an awful lot of cars who just can't see what's going on ahead. All they see is a load of white spray and nothing more. You can hear noises, of course, but you don't know where things are. And if you just stick to the racing line, usually when people go off circuit, they leave the racing line. So it's unfortunate that the cars ended up sideways on that racing line, causing carnage to the entire field. But you're seeing that the result of that is that Ivan, who has somehow got past Adamwich. Has Adamwich made a pit stop there? That's almost 30 seconds, and that is a pit stop time. So unless Shant Adamwich pulled over to the side of the circuit and stopped, then I have to assume he's made a pit stop, which has put Ivan back into 9th place. You're looking at Asite and Vinal. Neither driver has made a pit stop. Both of them have been pushing the car really hard. As you're seeing, Aceite makes a mistake there. Adrian Jimenez, new fastest lap time, 16.682. Vinal now looking at opportunities. He's seen that Aceite has just made a mistake. So he's saying to himself he can be beaten. I can get ahead of the Kamikaze Racing Team driver. So where will he make the move? We're looking down to the hairpin right now, as we're seeing 9th place, Ivanhoe, 32 seconds behind Ihan. Adam Witch, 6 seconds behind Ivanhoe. Saladin, 2 seconds behind Adam Witch. Rosetta HD, 2 laps behind. So Rosetta HD, as we know, may have had a fair bit of difficulty after some incident around the top of Hawthorne, where an Outcast driver did make him do a bit of a wall ride. So unfortunately, Foon and Brother are not quite as close as they were last time around, as I believe that might be Rosetta HD on your right. It is. Just making space for these two drivers to come through. Still battling on the run down to Sunny Inn. But yeah, so Foon and Brother, after the last race, being quite dominant in terms of team points. Not so much this time around. Was seeing, look at that, Vinal closed right up to the back of Aceite, trying to force Aceite into some sort of mistake again, as Aceite last time around wide out of Sunny Out. Not this time, not even with a little nudge from the Foon and Brother racing driver, as we're down into hairpin again. That gap just opened up after that little nudge. Vinal obviously wanting to give a bit of space, not to take a penalty, as we start lap 19. This is the penultimate lap. Look at the gap. Jimenez to Fenno, 12 seconds. Obviously, Jimenez wanting to assert dominance. Wide for Aceite there over Clairvaux. Around Hawthorne, both drivers a little bit sideways. Tyres probably struggling through chicane. On the run down to Tower now. Fenno, 12 seconds behind Jimenez, a long way ahead of Fenno. Sorry, Aceite. So Aceite, nothing to worry about ahead, just everything to worry about behind for this third spot. We're seeing lapped cars ahead. This might throw a spanner in the works for these two as they try to navigate their way around the slower drivers with 1 and a bit laps left to go. These two are battling for position. The gap is nothing. You can see it. Look at how much Vinal closes up through Sunny Inn, takes a bit more curb through Sunny Out, not wanting to run too wide and end up slow down to Complex. Complex still very difficult. As you can see, you've got to brake and slow down around that left-hander, slow it all the way down for the right-handers, and then you're down to hairpin, which is a short little acceleration zone. Now there's traffic. Aceite has to stop on the apex in order to keep it clean to get past the NG recap driver. That slows Vinal down. Both of them going slower than normal, down to Clairvaux. Will any of them go later on the brakes? Will there be a mistake? Rosetta HD, fastest lap time of anyone. Aceite is way wide from Aceite. That's going to give Vinal the inside line, as there's contact, I believe, with the Outcast driver, and that is Vinal ahead. Vinal on the final lap is ahead of Aceite, who takes a very unconventional line through chicane. I don't know whether that will give him an automatic penalty. As there's more contact, the Outcast driver holding Aceite up, making contact with him, and then there's further contact behind, as I believe that was Rosetta HD just making contact with both of them. This is very unfortunate for Aceite, who's now down in 4th place, and Vinal's gone. There is no chance that Aceite is going to get back to fighting unless that's Vinal. Jimenez comes across the line. Foon Labrada in 1st place in race 2. I want to find out what happened to Vinal there. Was that Vinal in the wall? It was. So Aceite can now see Vinal again, as Vinal's made the mistake at Sunny Out. There you go. Confirmation on your screen. Adrian Jimenez does take the win. I think Vinal, being the gentleman, has allowed Aceite to close that gap right up. Just to say, you know what? I can't take that much of an advantage. I got ahead around the first part of Hawthorne. I'll bring the gap back down to what it was, as we're seeing a bit of fun post-race there from the drivers. So, 1st place, Jimenez. 2nd place, Carlos Fenno. Very good job from both drivers to take a win each this round. Vinal in 3rd, with Aceite in 4th after that very, very dramatic final couple of laps. Cabeza Speed in 5th. Very entertaining first race with battle with Ivan. 6th place teammate Danny 01 for Cabeza Speed. Very good result for the Team Cheetah Racing team there. Rinaldi Edo in 7th place. Very good recovery drive despite race 1 not going the way that Rinaldi wanted it to go. Minas Dehan in 8th place. Very, very strong debut for the Luffield Lunatics driver in the ladder there. Looking forward to seeing some more of that on track. We have Ivanhoe making his way back up into 9th place after what appears to be making a pit stop for tyres. Along with him, Shant Ardenwich in 10th appears to have done the same thing, as well as Saladin, who has a result in 11th. So your official results about to come onto screen right now as we're starting from 11th. We'll go back to first. There we go. So Adrian Jimenez, Funabrada Racing Team, taking top honours in the second longer race. Carlos Fenno in second for the Sad Bombs GSR Racing Team. That battle rages on. Fran Vinal in third for Fuenlabrada, helping his teammate. Aceite for Kamikaze in fourth, with Cabeza Speed classified in fifth. Daniel 1 classified in sixth, and Rinaldi Ido classified in seventh. So obviously, we don't know whether Aceite will have a penalty for the cut at chicane, in which case, if he does, that could potentially promote Cabeza Speed and Daniel 1, but with the gap, it's unlikely. And then you have Menno Dehan, debut event, 8th place for the Luffield Lunatics. Ivanhoe Kamikaze Racing Team in 9th, and Shant Ardenwich in 10th. And then moving across to the rest of the classified field in 11th place, we have a result if it wants to flick over. And just waiting for the graphics. There we go. Saladin, NG Recap Sim Racing. It might be 19 laps down on the rest of the field, but finally it is a result for the driver. Joseti HD, unfortunately, 17 laps down. Again, we saw incident at the first few laps around Hawthorne. Sondra Henne, DNF for NG Recap, and Valter Duarte for the Outcasts, another DNF. Unfortunately, but we did get a result for Saladin. First time I've seen him put a good result on the board in 11th place. But what an exciting race that was. Now, I would absolutely love to see exactly how Joseti HD ended up being contacted by a lap driver around the top of Hawthorne. I would also like to find out why Ivan made the pit stop as well. Were it tyres? Is that why a few drivers stopped? So if you stick around, welcome back to La Virtual F1. I'm a bit flustered. It was an incredible World Touring Car Championship race. Just gone. 2 incredible rounds, actually. We had a very wet track to start with that was drying towards the end. Fenno reigned supreme in the wet. Jimenez reigned supreme in the dry. They almost got together in race 1. And then in race 2, tables turned. Jimenez managed to get ahead of Fenno and lead the charge. So 2 race winners from 2 races. Unfortunately, Fenno can't join us in the chat room today, but one driver that can is Menno Dehaan. Now, Menno made his debut today, taking the place of Conrad Osman for Luffield Lunatics. And, you know, you've got to say that when you do a debut event halfway through a championship, it is not easy. You don't know what all the other drivers are going to do around you. So you're on edge, you're nervous, you've got no experience of how those guys race. And to get your car on pole position for race 1, even though it's a reverse pole position, it still means you've done a great qualifying session. Then to hold off the faster drivers for a couple of laps. And then in the second race, after an unfortunate end to the first one, to then make your way back up the field and end up having a wonderful battle with Rinaldi Adder. Menno Dehaan, you're with us. Just tell us how that felt.
The battle was great, actually. It was very close, although we had some wheel banging through some corners, which also caused me to spin it eventually. But I mean, yeah, it's racing. It's part of the job.
It is. I mean, that battle was absolutely fantastic. We watched it for quite a long time, and we saw Edo trying to pressure you into a mistake or to get down your inside. He was doing his best to get through, but
He caught me off guard at some point. That's why he passed me, because I wasn't letting him pass in the next few laps. so I was trying my hardest. But he
Yeah,
put his car at my right side, and I couldn't get my car in the defensive modus anymore, so I just had to yield.
yeah, exactly. And with such a driver making so much pressure, I mean, obviously you don't know how that driver responds in close quarters racing. So what were you expecting? Had you done a lot of practice with him? Did you know what to expect from Rinaldi?
No, I didn't know what to expect from anybody.
So completely blind, you're going racing that closely with another driver. That is absolutely incredible. So hats off to you, Benno. Now
Thanks.
we're gonna have to talk about race one because you did a very good job to get away in the wet at Croft, and then unfortunately there was, I think it was Tower where you went wide. I mean, was it a lockup or were you just too far offline?
I expected the track to be that it had more grip at that corner, but it didn't, which caused me to skid off understeer. Since it's a front wheel driven car, understeer is pretty easy. I thought, yeah, I'm gonna go to the left side and evade the barriers, but the barriers just smacked in my face.
Yep, I've been there. In fact, last weekend. In fact, I was doing another race at Croft, so I know that feeling. Believe me.
Yeah,
But then, unfortunately, a couple of cars got past, and then it was difficult to get going. I know that when you go off circuit at Croft, especially in the wet, the tires are very hard to get up to temperature and pressure again. So is that how you ended up going into the bales at chicane with the tires just not providing the grip they should have been?
uh, yeah, and it was just me pushing too hard, just like going over the limit because I thought the track was drier than it actually was.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it might have been just the same. It is such a shame. I
No,
mean, we
it's
did see at the
same.
last second you made the dive to the left to get through the barriers.
Yeah, I should
Um,
have come up with it earlier, but I was like, yeah, I don't want to risk a penalty as well, so I was like dubbing while I was
yeah.
going at a barrier at let's say 130 kph. So yeah,
Yeah, it's a very difficult call to make,
yeah,
and yeah,
just
well done for the debut anyway. I mean, absolutely stunning job from yourself for the Luffy Lunatics. Will we see you and the teammates back at the next round?
I hope so. I mean, I love driving here. I hope they just accept me in the team, just accept me as one of the drivers, as one of their own, and just drive.
Brilliant stuff. So we're looking at the next round. Are you expecting to be top 10 again or even better?
Well, my goal is always to finish first, but to finish first, you first have to finish. So we'll see you next week.
That is absolutely fantastic, and I really want to see that. It would be awesome to see another driver giving Fenner and Jimenez, and of course Rodriguez, a bit of a challenge up there. They have been quite dominant this,
Yeah, but to be
in
honest,
fact,
those
this
guys are
championship.
just way too quick. I mean, I've never driven a front wheel driven car, so I'm fucking slow in that car. So yeah, it's just not. I don't think I'll be competing for like P1, but I'll just see what happens.
Well, the thing is, anything can happen. We saw that a
Yeah.
couple of races ago. I mean, we've got Macau to come. Anything will happen there. Road Atlanta is next. And then you've, of course, got a lot of other cars all trying to throw their hat in the ring as well. So, best of luck to you, Minot Dehan.
Yes.
Very well
Thanks.
done for this debut. And we will hopefully be speaking to you again in one of the next 3 rounds.
Yeah. Thank you. You have a good day.
So, viewers, thank you so much for being with us. I wonder whether we can bring up a graphic actually to show you the next few rounds before we sign off. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, nobody else is around to chat today. Carlos Feno, I would have loved to have had a chat with Carlos Feno, but unfortunately, he can't join us in the commentary booth. As well as that, I don't think Adrian Jimenez is up for the task either. Both drivers doing an absolutely fantastic job today. You have to give them credit. As we're looking there, we are. So the calendar next week, Road Atlanta. We will be live just before 11 a.m. for the first race. Make sure you are here with us. And then the week after, we are in Macau. Macau throws up a lot of drama every single time any car goes around there to do a racing lap. Remember, it's a proper street circuit, very, very narrow. I don't know whether we're going to be allowing overtaking at the hairpin. I know nowadays they don't. There's a permanent yellow there, but if we can see some overtaking there again, that's going to be very exciting. And then we're going to close out on the 24th of July, round 7 at Abu Dhabi. Again, it is going to be the circuit as you know it right now. None of the modifications will be there. So, yeah, a fantastic chance to give a send off to a good circuit in these fantastic cars. So, before we go, there was a fair bit of drama, and there's a chance to look at one of those incidences. Asite, as you saw, did get into a bit of trouble. Let's be honest. And when you're coming across lap drivers and you're in a battle, it's always very, very difficult to know what to do as the driver approaching them, to know what to do as a driver being lapped. So we're going to have a look at this. Asita isn't with us, and we're looking at the back of an NG recap driver, and there is an outcast driver there as well. Fran Vinal is right behind us. These two are having their own battle. As you're seeing the outcast driver overtaking the NG recap driver there. So if I can get a number off these cars, I believe that's car number 15. And that would be Saladin. And then that must mean the car ahead that he is battling should obviously be Duarte, who was in a similar place on track. So Asite comes in fast, goes wide, 54 there. So that is indeed Shant Adamwich. So that is a very difficult situation to be in. And Asite then cuts the corner and goes completely out of sorts to try and get past these guys without losing any more time to Vinal. It was obvious. Vinal's already gone. He's there ahead. And Shant Adamwich just ahead after overtaking the NG recap driver, then impedes Asite. And then there's more contact. There is more contact as we're seeing another Full Labrada driver getting in the mix there. That must have been his NTHD. So further around, and then Vinal gets it wrong around Sunny, and that allows Asite to close right up to the Full Labrada driver, and then says, you know what? I'll let you get a little bit closer at the hairpin. It's a bit unfair for you to be knocked off circuit by the lapped drivers and to close up again. But that was at Sunny in there from Fran Vinal. That was a definite mistake. He didn't mean to be in the wall there. That could have ended his race. But this incident into Tower, after impeding Asite, that's a bit daft. To go defensive when you've got a blue flag, that's incredibly daft. So I'm wondering whether Shant Adamwich will get a talking to about that. Yeah, I mean, even if Asite went further to the right, there's a risk that A, he's unsettling the car and going sideways, and B, he's on the grass anyway, so he's not going to make the next corner. Fran Vinal is in the distance there, just getting to the apex. And that's how much Shant Adamwich has cost Asite from third position. That's not fun. That's not fun in any position, let alone when you're fighting for a podium. So I'm wondering what will be said about that. Fran Vinal, of course, doing a sterling job and very deserving of a third place, but Asite, very deserving of that third place as well. You know, he didn't really put a foot wrong. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Shant Adamwich forced the Kamikaze racing driver to go wide into Hawthorne, which sent him all the way out to the outside, which I know is slow. And that cost Asite the third place. As you can look just behind here. An absolute ridiculous attempt from Shant Adamwich to keep drivers a lap ahead behind him. As we're now watching, this is what happened to, I believe it was HD. Oh dear. I'm not sure why, but Jose THD appears to have turned into the defending car of Saladin, which I'm not sure why he's defending. They may have been racing for position at that time, but I am sure that Jose THD would have been trying to unlap himself there, as Saladin is then sent into oblivion, almost collecting Shant Adamwich in the process. So that is a really messy way to ruin a lot of people's races in a couple of corners, unfortunately. Not something we like to see, not something we like to to think too much about. But I think that if this is reviewed by any officials, that it's going to be a very difficult call. And again, it might result in some of the positions changing. If there are any updates, we will be able to update you at the very next stream next week. So do join us at usually about 5 to 11. We'll get the intro going for you. So do join us between then and 11. Don't miss the 11 o'clock start, because then you're missing action, and there will be action, and we will discuss anything that happens here next week. But, tip my hat. Carlos Fenner, Adrian Jimenez. What a fantastic pair of racers, guys. Very well done to the both of you. Viewers, thank you for being here. We'll see you next week. Until then, enjoy your day.